All right, we continue to cover this story. Tom Winter is NBC's investigative correspondent, talking to law enforcement officials throughout the night. So over the night, we did get an identity for this shooter, but it seems at this hour we don't know a lot about him or his potential motive.
Well, that's exactly right. In speaking to those law enforcement officials, some of this country's top intelligence analysts and people that are on top of these type of issues, they say what is very clear this morning is that it is very unclear why this individual did what they did. No apparent criminal history. No apparent history of civil lawsuits. For a 20-year-old, an incredible lack of social media presence. There's really nothing that sticks out when you look at him and look at his history and look at his background that would point you to this. He's wearing apparently a Demolition Ranch T-shirt, which is after a YouTube channel, which is very pro-Second Amendment. They fire all sorts of different types of rifles. He is a registered Republican, as you mentioned at the top of the show, and a small donation to a Democratic group. So nothing there points to somebody who would want to show up and try to kill Donald Trump at a rally. And so I think the motive here is going to be very important. It could go potentially two different paths. One, some sort of reason that makes sense to nobody else because of a severe mental health breakdown. That is certainly possible. Or the second, was this politically motivated? That could become a big deal. Was Donald Trump not conservative enough for him? Is there some other motivating purpose? And I think that's something that law enforcement is certainly going to pay attention to. We've got two candidates who are going to be crisscrossing this country over the next 3 to 4 months. And from a security perspective, that is a nightmare. And for society, it could become a huge issue, law enforcement officials believe, because if people think that violence is the only way to solve your political viewpoints, this could be a very rough couple of months or even longer than that.
As you say, Tom, we've become accustomed after a shooting almost immediately. You can go to a Facebook page, some kind of a manifesto, go to Twitter, wherever it is, and find everything you need to know about the shooter. It is striking that there's no trace, at least for now, no footprint on social media. So where will investigators look next for motive?
Well, that's what's going to be so key about this FBI investigation. I mean, they're asking for the public's help, but they're also going to go through every single email account he's ever thought about having. They're going to go through all of his phones, all of his devices. What does he have on his person? Hard drives that could be at the home. In past incidents of mass violence or these types of shootings, those have been potentially very helpful avenues. And then, of course, there'll be a complete security review of what happened here and obviously the questions that have come up.
Well, let's talk about that, because we've all covered presidential events. We know that if you're in the perimeter, you get wanted. There's a magnetometer. Right. You cannot bring a weapon into the event. We've learned that this took place, the shooting, outside the security perimeter, which raises the question, why is a rooftop so close to the president outside any security perimeter?
Sure, approximately 150 yards away from it. They did have the counter sniper teams up there. Those are the ones that apparently took this individual out. Yes, to your point, you see this building, and it's not directly head-on from where Trump was standing. It's off to his right, if you're looking at him, as we've been looking at the video here. And so 150 yards away, elevated surface, talking about a roof of a building. Should there have been law enforcement there just to keep an eye on that facility? Should there have been law enforcement that was looking at it? Should that have been part of the perimeter? To your point, I think, Savannah, these are all big questions that need to be asked. And given that this has now occurred, I think there's a real concern in law enforcement. Are other people going to think, you know what, if that guy could do it, maybe I could do it, maybe I could do it even better? And that's a major concern going forward.
Yeah, it was in the grounds of a farm show. There actually weren't that many structures nearby, so you'd think they would check out whatever buildings were there. Typically, Tom, even if it is outside the perimeter, if there's an elevated position during a presidential or a candidate's event, a nominee's event, soon to be, what is the protocol? Do they just sort of stand guard outside the building? Do they clear those rooftops? What do they normally do?
All of that. I mean, I remember it's so clear in my mind as this was happening last night. I remember on the anniversary of September 11th, when then presidential candidates McCain and Obama traveled to Ground Zero. I was there up on the roofs. Standing next to me, I still have pictures of it. You had Secret Service personnel with binoculars. You had counter sniper teams. If anybody opened a window in that area, you knew that they were going to be on top of it and scanning for it. So that is one of the things I think that's raising so many questions. And then I think they're going to have to ask, should we have just at least have had some sort of a uniform presence? And that might be what you see going forward, a much stronger uniform presence. In the backdrop of that, law enforcement and they rely on local law enforcement for this, certainly stretch from a resources standpoint. You look at some of the conventions coming up and you look at the law enforcement situations in those cities, they are short-staffed. And they're asking a lot of these individuals to go out there and protect these events. So it's a big concern.
And there's always a tension, Willie, of course, because politicians, they want to get out there, they want to have these rallies, they want to be close up. And from a security perspective, that's a nightmare. So they're always trying to temper that.
Yeah, and I'm sure a thorough review, as you say, being undertaken now for events going forward for both candidates. Tom Winter, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.